Hello, this is Mark from Productive Computing and Productive Computing University. You are about to watch a selected JSON lesson from our free course called JSON Fundamentals for FileMaker Developers. Knowing how to create, parse, and manipulate JSON is essential in order to integrate FileMaker with the world of APIs, Claris Connect, artificial intelligence, and more. In this complete course, we'll cover everything you need to know about JSON from the perspective of a Claris FileMaker Pro developer. We're making this course available for free because we feel it's an important and essential building block for you to understand in order to advance your skills to the next level. And once you learn how to manipulate JSON formatted text, you are that much closer to accomplishing your first API integration in your own FileMaker apps. And like all our other courses at Productive Computing University, this course comes complete with downloadable FileMaker files for you to use and follow along with. These downloadable files are available directly in selected lessons inside the course. There's a link in the description to enroll in this free course called JSON Fundamentals for FileMaker Developers at productivecomputinguniversity.com. Okay, now let's dive into the lesson. In this lesson, we explore another way to create JSON in FileMaker using the Execute FileMaker Data API script step. Here I have a simple database of countries. 5 records, each a different country, with fields for name, population, continent, and capital. Below each of the countries, you see listed the main cities, and I've listed 3 main cities for each country. This is all listed in a single layout called countries. So now, what if I wanted to create JSON for this? Going back to the previous lessons, you now know how to construct that. You'd put each of these records in its own array, and then you have the related records here in its own array. But there's another opportunity to use a built-in function which you may find even better or easier to work with if you need immediate JSON. I'm going to go into ScriptMaker here and we will look at a brand new script. I'll call it Create JSON from Execute Data API. Single script step, Execute FileMaker Data API. Just 2 options, the target, which we will list here as results, $results, and then the request. Now, in order to see all the different options you have in making this request, I highly recommend you go to the help file for this particular script step. But for now, I'll just keep it as simple as possible by including everything on this one layout. So for that, we just need a single function, the one we've been using right along, JSON setElement. The JSON we're setting will just be quote, quote. The key or path is simply this reserved word called layouts. Make sure you put it as lowercase. And yes, it has to be plural. Layouts, and then the value of that will be the name of the layout that you want to pull from, countries. So put that in quotes. And then the type will be JSON string. That's it. That is the most basic request you can make using this script step called Execute FileMaker Data API. I'll execute that now and then go to Data Viewer and take a look at our stored results. And just like that, it's created JSON for all the records in the database related to that layout, including the portal information. Now let's make this a little easier to work with by adding another script step to format this, not unlike how we've done many of the other scripts here. So I'll just do a set variable, and we'll set the results to the JSON format elements, $results. Okay, and we'll run it again, and go check out the results in the data viewer. And here's our JSON. Now imagine the time that it would take to create all of this by hand. You've already been through this with me on the previous lessons, but I'm here to tell you that this one script step will do it all. Now it does include extra information that you may not necessarily want or care to know about. You do have a key for messages, which gives you a return code of 0, in this case meaning success, and then a message of OK. And then you have your response in its own key. Then it breaks that down into data in its own key. Then it breaks that down into field data as its own key. And then we actually have the fields at this point. Then we have another interesting thing here, which is the mod ID. This indicates if the data has been manipulated, and if so, the mod ID will go from 0 to 1. In fact, the mod ID will increment by 1 each time that record is updated. Then it will list any portal data that it sees on the layout. It's identified this portal data, and cities is the name of the relationship or the table occurrence that it's looking at, and then it lists each record in its own array, 1, 2, 3, with fields for cities, and of course the mandatory mod ID and record ID. These record IDs are stored from FileMaker. You have no control over what they are or changing them. They are just there for you to use as you need. And that's all there is to it. Then at the very end of the payload, we have something called data info, which in a sense summarizes what we have. We have a database called countries. We have the found count of 5. The layout is called countries. The return count is 5. And then we have the total record count. So a nice little summary there. If you were parsing this, you could then quickly determine, based on this information, how many records you're dealing with. Now this is pretty dynamic, and it looks to see what fields you have on the layout in order to construct the JSON. If I were to duplicate this layout now, and on this duplicated copy, I will remove the portal and all the fields except for name. Countries copy. Now I'll do the same thing with the script. I'll duplicate the script, and I'll even leave the word copy in there. And I'm going to change just one thing here in our request, and that is, instead of the layout being countries, it will be countries space copy. So we'll have it look at this layout, and then do the exact same thing. I'll perform that now. Go to Data Viewer. This time, we only get the data that exists on the layout. In this case, only the name. Notice how the portal data is blank each and every time. It'll still list a key for the portal data because it does that automatically, whether you have a portal or not. But there's nothing to include in this key. So you can dynamically include or exclude data simply by targeting a layout that has those fields or not, which is a very handy feature. This is a very powerful set of functions when you talk about Execute Data API. I'll include a link to the help file for this because it's worth looking at all the different options you have. All the parameters that you request have to be in JSON format, like you see here. And the details for what you can include are listed in the help file. I also include a lesson called Execute FileMaker Data API in the Claris FileMaker Pro Advanced 2 course here at Productive Computing University, where the file demonstrates how to add, edit, delete, and duplicate records using this script step. What's most notable about this is that you can query the records, in a sense do a find, and you can sort the records. So this is a quick way of gathering data without building an elaborate script. Especially good if you are looking for that data to be returned as JSON formatted text. And that concludes this lesson for Execute FileMaker Data API as another means for you to gather JSON against your FileMaker data in a very powerful and dynamic way. Thanks for joining us on this lesson. To enroll in the free complete course, click on the link in the description or visit productivecomputinguniversity.com, where you'll find both free and paid courses on today's most important topics related to the Claris FileMaker platform.